Hello everyone! In this scripting video we're going to have a look at how you can make intel and tasks with the help of triggers. First off, I'm going to show a really simple way to set up triggers, and the rest of the video will be delving deeper into trigger scripting and also how to set up tasks. Starting off, a very simple way to just set up any intel is starting off with a document or another type of intel you can find in props, and just searching intel you'll find probably a lot of good stuff. I do have some mods on, but yeah, leaflets, documents, laptop, that sort of thing works just fine. I'm going to put that down and enter this code right here. As with other add actions throughout this series, the text here is of course what happens when you hover over it, so we can have this to be pickup intel. And that will delete this document. And we need to give this document a name, so we're going to just call it intel. It can of course be whatever you want, but for the sake of just keeping track, we're just going to call it intel, and then variable name will be the same, intel. If we call this bababooey, then we would write bababooey here as well. And we set the range for this to 4, so it's a bit easier to pick up from a distance. Alright, now that we've done that, we want to put down a trigger. And for the condition, we want to have exclamation point alive. This will check if it's there or not. And since we delete it, when we pick it up, this will, of course, activate the trigger. And the variable name for this was, of course, intel. If it was bababooey, we'd write bababooey here instead. Now, if you have a lot of triggers in your scenario, you might want to up the interval a bit to reduce lag, but for testing purposes, this is just fine. And we want to go to our modules here and find a create diary module. We're gonna plunk this down right here, and we want to sync our trigger to the module. You can also sync the module to the trigger, it doesn't really matter. Let's open up the diary record, and you'll get this little window right here. Now, for the owner is whoever will be able to see this intel. Now, you could sync it to a set of units if you'd like, only those units to have it. But we're going to set it to all playable units. Now, the subject is kind of the header, the grouping of the intel. If you have multiple intels with the same subject, they'll all go under that subject with their own specific titles. Currently, they're all set to briefing by default, but we can have an intel tab we'll make, and we'll call this intel1. And description, you can write pretty much whatever you like, Google Gaga Gaga. And now, if we go to test this out, you will see that I am in-game. I have my little document folder right here. I can look at it, I can pick it up. And if I go to my map view now, you'll see I have this tab called Intel. Intel1 and Gua 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 Gua. So that's a very simple way to set up Intel. And it doesn't necessarily have to be with this module. You can also do it by just using scripts and scripting only on the document itself. But it's far more simpler to do it with just triggers and modules, and you also have a lot of flexibility with the stuff you want this trigger to do. Next up, I'm going to have a look at how to add pictures to Intel, and also have pictures you can pick up and look at. You might have gotten a small sneak peek of that when I was in-game earlier. But first off, we're going to add a picture to our folder. So we've got to go into our file directory, which will look something like this. Okay, so I'm in my file directory right here, and we're going to open my mission folder. And here I have the mission name for the map that I'm using for this video. And as you can see here, I put the JPG of this handsome gentleman. And we're going to use that. You need to name it something. It could be, name it whatever you like. But I've named it Image Man for simplicity's sake. Alright, now that we have the picture in our file directory, we can plunk down, for example, some photos here. We can have another document folder, or potentially a whiteboard or a flat TV. Anything we want really to have the picture shown at. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can have a picture you can pick up and look at, like I've done with this photo right here, where, as we realize here, this is the image_man, which is what I called the JPG. And here we can write pretty much whatever we want. We can have, yeah, just Intel, text. Doesn't really matter. And we can also, I'll just add this as well to this document, just so you see the difference between how it will look like, because now it will show on the picture, but you also can pick it up and your screen will go full with it. Alternatively, you can just add it as a normal picture by setting the object texture global to the image, and I've done that with this picture, the whiteboard, and the flat TV, so they're non-interactable, but I'm still just changing the texture of it, and I'll show you how this looks like. Alright, as you can see now, we have the TV, we have the whiteboard, and we have these pictures. And you can see here the document, only the top page has gotten the image of this very handsome gentleman. Now, this image and the document, I added the special script for that lets you examine them, while the others are just straight up pictures. The take Intel here is just part of the object itself from the mod, so it actually doesn't do anything when I pick it up, sadly. But when I hold enter to examine here, you'll see I get the picture up in my full screen, and I can also press this read button down here and to get the text that I wrote in earlier. Now, when I was in game, you notice I could pick up these Intel objects. Now, this doesn't happen with all of these props, but some props have an inherent ability to be picked up. Now, for that, we can add this little thing to them, which will make them be able to be read in game, which I'll show you in just a minute here, where you can write the title here, you can write the text, and you can put in the image even. This is where you get into how you would script an Intel by just adding stuff to the object itself. But of course, if you have a very long text, then it will be very messy. It's easier to just put it all down into a module, in my opinion at least, and also that gives you the flexibility of working with a trigger. And now if I pick it up, it will look something like this. Text goes here, title goes here, and we got this handsome man right here. But that's how that would look like at any rate. You can also put your triggers into your dial record modules, which would look something like this. You could set the height and the width of the image if you don't have that width, and you just delete this part. Then you'd get the whole size of the image, which would take up quite some space. And here you could also write stuff. You could have Google Gaga Gaga, and that would come in the image as well. Alright, so let's just sync that to this trigger, and now we're going to go into a bit more depth of a lot of stuff you can do with triggers and why I like triggers to make Intel. I've gone ahead and put down this other trigger here, which has some other lines of code in it. As you can see, we have the alive Intel again. And now, on this activation, we have 3 new lines of code, which I'm going to show you guys. The first one is to set the damage of something. And you can see I've written bomb down here, and that's because I placed down an IED right here, which I also made invisible, so no players can find it. And I named this bomb. So what happens now is that when this trigger activates, this bomb will be destroyed and it will blow up. Next up, I have this thing which sets the marker alpha, and that's the transparency of a marker. Very hard to tell. You can't actually tell because I have an eclipse marker here which I've set to be invisible. Right, as you can see right here, it's a nice area marker. And you set this to invisible and we name it area. which means that when this trigger activates, it will set the marker to 1, which is 100. Both of these values goes from 0 to 1, being 1 100%. And lastly, we have put down a hint, which will make a small hint appear on top of our screen to check explosion. And this can be whatever you want it to be. Of course, this is just a text, like the addAction text. So we could replace this with this if you want. We don't necessarily need this now, but we'll have this for the intels. We could also just have synced this to these to keep the amount of triggers we have to keep track of lower. But yeah, let's go test this out. Okay, we're back in the game. As you can see, as I open my map, there's no marker here. I don't have any intel tabs. And I'll go and I'll pick up this intel document, which will do a number of things. First of all, as you can see in my top corner here, I got the check explosion hint. Also, you can see the smoke of the explosion happening behind me here. And now also, if I open my map, I will have an intel tab with the intel, of course, that we had earlier. And also, as you might remember, I also hooked up this image to it. And here we go, Google Gaga with the image. Alright, that's it for Intel. Now let's delve into making tasks around this. And we have the create task module for this. We're going to put one down. And this is synced to the trigger. Of course, both of these triggers are the same now, so it doesn't really matter which one I set it to. I can delete this, and let's sync this to this one. And for the diary record, we can have an explosion occurred. Wow, whoa, wow, whoa. Alright. So, we sync the create task to our trigger, or vice versa. And now you'll see, same with the module, we need to set this owner to all playable units, or other factions, depending on how you want to set this up. Task ID and parent task ID is for setting up a hierarchy of tasks. You could have multiple tasks under one task. For this task, we'll just have this to be 1, just so we can have a hierarchy. If it doesn't do anything, all the tasks will be similar, and they'll all only be ranked by their titles, but we're just going to have this to show you how this will look like. And title can be check out Big Boom. And we can write a short description about this. A big boom happened. What was it? Now, for the destination, we can either synchronize this to an object, or we can have it to be where the module is. So that would require moving the module to where we want them to go, or we could potentially just put down like an invisible helipad or something, and sync the object to that. That will also work. And then, of course, have a synchronous object. The state is whatever state is created in, so we could have it be automatically assigned, or just you have to assign it yourself. And task type is mostly just what image you want for it. So now, we also need a way to complete the task. And for this, we can have it to be a number of different things. I'm going to have it set when a friendly player is inside this area, it will count as being checked out. So we place now another trigger, and it will check for any player present within the trigger. And that will activate the trigger. So that's basically the condition in this case. And we'll sync that to a new task by changing the task state. So we're going to put down a set task state and have that to be succeeded. And we're going to sync that to that. And we're going to sync the task state to the task. There's a lot of blue lines right here. But what's now going to happen is I'm going to pick up this intel, which will activate this trigger. because it checks that the intel is there or not, which will set up a bomb, set the area marker to there, and also give me a little hint that I should check explosion. Or I could write whatever, like check your map for explosion area, I could say. That's also set to make a die record now, which could be from the intel or something else. And it'll also sync to creating a task. And that task will be at this invisible helipad. I could also just have it move the task there and unsync it from that and change this to module position. And then we have another trigger to have this task be completed. And that's set to disk task state, which will change the task state of the task, making it be completed when I get there. Now from this, we could create multiple other tasks. Let's say, yeah, 2 is maybe enough. And we can sync that to this trigger. So that will trigger to activate these tasks and also complete that task. And let's say this is a main task and this is a secondary task. Actually, it has to be 2 because I named the other one 1. So this, I'll just call this B, and I can call this main. And of course, I need to set the owners to be all playable units. All right, let's have a look at how this will look like. All right, we're in game. I'm just gonna pick up this intel right here. And as you can see, I have an assigned task. Let's quickly head over here into our trigger area. You see it's centered on the helipad that I put down. And it creates the new tasks. And it completes the old one. And of course it created 2 tasks. If I open my task menu right here, you'll see that this area is here. And tasks, we have the checkout big boom, which is succeeded. And we got the main task and the secondary B task, which is under the main task. If I were to complete the main task, that will also automatically succeed every task set under it. So you can make some pretty big task trees by using this. Lastly, we're going to go back to the hint command that we used in our trigger here. And we can also put this on units. I have my good friend Ben from an earlier video. And I've added the addAction again with a hint on him. I also has the do stop command, which is a very handy command for everyone to know on AI you want to put down in buildings, which will make them not move, but they can still pivot around to shoot at stuff around them. So you could, for example, add this to friendly units, or you could add it to hostile units. Maybe they have some notes at them that when you kill them, you can look at their notes. Maybe they have some hidden intel on them like that. But yeah, let's go into game and say hello to Ben, and I'll show you how that looks like. Alright, we got our good friend here, and as you can see, if I go close to him, I get the look at note option, and got a hint. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. And that's everything I had for this video. I hope some of this was helpful, and I hope to see you all gamers in the next one. Goodbye.